$330 million. That's how much GoFundMe says has gone toward memorial fundraisers every year.
This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. Tonight we're talking about the cost of care in America and one of our true safety nets. Not the government, we're talking about GoFundMe, y'all.
Helping each other is human nature.
And GoFundMe brings people together to find the support they need when they need it.
GoFundMe is one of the most popular crowdfunding sites in the world. From May of 2010 to December of 2018, more than 1 million GoFundMe fundraisers were created in the US. And according to the Journal of the American Medical Association, more than a quarter of those were created to cover healthcare costs. As of April of 2019, those fundraisers helped raise over $3 billion. That's an incredible amount of money that's been basically crowdsourced. And honestly, it speaks to the importance of sites like GoFundMe in American life. But it also raises a few questions about the US healthcare system. Namely, why is it so difficult to get medical expenses covered by insurance? Who does the financial responsibility fall on? And what does this really look like for many Americans? For some, the issue starts out with access to insurance. The US Census Bureau says 26 million people were uninsured in 2019. That can lead to mounting medical debt since most people without insurance make less money. I mean, the average cost of a hospital stay is almost $12,000. Hospitals can even charge you for every single ibuprofen. But the thing is, even if you have insurance coverage, that doesn't guarantee smooth sailing in the United States. The Kaiser Family Foundation says 1 in 5 people with insurance still have trouble paying. With rising deductibles and unexpected bills, many people aren't prepared to cover the costs they end up being on the hook for. But that's only a part of it. Prescriptions aren't always covered by insurance. Imagine you have cancer and your oncologist prescribes you a promising treatment, but your insurance comes back and denies the coverage. That means you're on the hook to pay for it if you choose to use it. That's the gripe a lot of people have with the process.
Will you cover this chemo? That type of chemo is experimental and not FDA approved, therefore we cannot pay for it. But my oncologist at MD Anderson in Houston, which is the #1 cancer hospital in the United States and #4 in the world. I understand that, but we, the insurance companies, know far more than world-renowned oncologists.
And while that's just a TikTok skit that's gained more than 370,000 views, it's also based on a true story.
And although we're making some headway with the insurance company to pay for her treatments, we're still drowning in medical bills. Right now, I'm kind of desperate. Some of my mom's friends started a GoFundMe for her, and I'm going to post that link in my bio here on my TikTok.
Insurance companies do offer an appeals process, but that can take more than a year. When there's a serious diagnosis at hand, the patient might not have the time or resources to fight that. Another option, paying out of pocket. Therapy costs for newly diagnosed cancer patients are 23% to 63% of their household income. I don't know about y'all, but my pockets are not that deep. While some people are paying for long-term medical expenses, others are struggling to pay off charges from a while ago. To make ends meet, this could cause people to cut back on spending for household purchases, food, and basic items. Some are draining savings accounts, borrowing more money, and changing their living situations. So it only makes sense why so many people turn to online fundraisers. GoFundMes don't just cover medical bills. People have used campaigns to cover costly funeral expenses. And a lot of times people are unprepared to take on those expenses because really, they aren't talking about end-of-life decisions. That's where death cafes come in. Stick with me. It's a place for folks to get together and talk about death. Newsy's Amber Strong tells us more.
$330 million. That's how much GoFundMe says has gone toward memorial fundraisers every year, covering things like family support after a death and funeral costs, an average $10,000 expense. Those high costs for death care can come as a surprise for the unprepared.
You don't want to think about your end, and you don't want to think about what life will be like without you.
Death and what you want after you die is the conversation nobody wants to have, unless of course you're librarian Andrea Castillo, and have led discussions at the local death cafe.
I had started as a person kind of trying to confront my own anxieties about death.
Death cafes all over the world tend to happen in people's homes or places like this library, where folks are comfortable gathering over coffee, cake, and conversations on death.
The topics can run the gamut from, we've talked about what it's like, losing a parent or losing a sibling, what arrangements do you want to make, living wills. There are even like what it's like to clean out your relative's house after they die.
Talking about birth control doesn't make you pregnant, and talking about death doesn't make you die.
Sandy Schlaudecker and Isabel Burney are volunteers with the Blue Ridge, Virginia branch of the National Funeral Consumers Alliance. They say the kinds of talks happening at death cafes are a good first step in planning for one of life's biggest expenses.
For the basic funeral, at one place it might be $5,000. Across the street, it might be $10,000.
With prices varying so drastically, it may seem hard to know what's fair and what isn't if you're suddenly faced with burying a loved one or just hoping to plan ahead. The FCA says that's where they come in, compiling a list every 2 years comparing local funeral home costs. For example, the lowest price containers for remains will run you anywhere from $35 for a cremation container to $3,295 for a traditional casket. A hearse anywhere from $90 to $500, and embalming is anywhere from $425 to $1,395.
Once the person has died, they're traumatized, everything's happening so fast. And comparison shopping just is not like a mindset.
The Federal Trade Commission also lays out some guidelines to protect consumers during what can be a really tough time. It's known as the funeral rule. For instance, funeral homes must provide an itemized list of the total cost of a funeral, or at least a good faith estimate up front. They also can't force you to buy one of their caskets, and must accept caskets from third-party vendors, which may be cheaper than what you're offered on site. Schlaudecker and Burney say their group's mission is to make sure people know this kind of info exists, and to encourage families to prepare, but never prepay.
It's a good idea to think about what you want and to know about how much it will cost. Then you set aside that money and you control that money. Don't give it to a funeral home, because no one prepays for a TV and picks it up 3 years later.
But sometimes finding the cash is just difficult, which leads some to crowdsourcing. Even still, experts say having the conversation now can ease the burden, even if it's just emotionally. Amber Strong, Newsy, Washington.
Hospitalizations related to COVID led to innovative new ways to get some cancer patients in and out of the hospital quicker than before.